Welcome to Global Perspectives. Today we're talking about a descriptor of your spirit. I'm sure it's something that many of you have never thought about, but I'd like you to think about it today. We often have phrases that other people use about us as they describe us. Sometimes we have descriptors of ourselves. One of the things I've noticed is if you are a direct validation person, as I am, it's still fascinating how many people are uncomfortable with hearing direct validations about themselves. And I want to say to you, get used to it. If you perform at a high level, if you are effective at what you do, for those of you that are people of faith, if it feels like God is doing some of this in you, with you, or for you, you've got to get used to it. It's going to be recognized. So previously, in one of the talks, I had talked to you about the great leadership transition at the end of the book of the Deuteronomy. One of the great leadership transitions in all of history. Clearly one of those recorded for us in the Bible. So for the people of faith, it is one of those that they look back to and go, this is a key leadership transition in history. We have three key players. There's Moses, there's Joshua, and there's Caleb. Each of them had a very clear descriptor of their spirit. We could say it's about their character. We could say it's about their personhood. I want to talk to you about what it's like of their spirit. Moses, one of the great leaders of history, there's a descriptor of his spirit. It says, Moses was a man whom the Lord knew face to face. Notice what it says and doesn't say. It doesn't say he knew the Lord face to face. It's that the Lord knew him face to face. The descriptor of the language in which they spoke of the day was that it would have been a very intimate, almost a mouth-to-mouth connection. Very close, very personal, very intimate. Pretty cool phrase, a man whom the Lord knew face to face. Joshua, who became his successor, his is described as a man in whom was the Spirit. It's qualified for us here. He had a spirit of wisdom. In my mind, Caleb got the fun one. Caleb had a different spirit. He always did. He didn't conform. He always had a different spirit, a bit of a maverick. He followed the Lord wholeheartedly all of his days. As I had said previously, he didn't allow the culture of complaint to get to him. He didn't get disappointed and discouraged and let it dominate his life. He kept a freshness to his spirit. We know these descriptors. They're used throughout history. Key leaders. Even in biblical history, we have them. Famous ones are David. David was a man after God's own heart. In the Newer Testament, one of the disciples, John, is called the disciple whom Jesus loved. By the way, he seemed to have given himself that description. If I'm right, in the heavenlies, the Holy Trinity has a descriptor of your spirit. And they would love if you learned to live into it and lead with it. Not apologetically, not making too much about you, but identifying in the bigger pictures of the universe, the best of who you might be. If you can identify it, you can partner with it. You can sharpen it and frame it. It can become one of those clearly identifiable signatures of your life. But you have to identify it in order to live into it. A few years ago, I was standing with a group of people at a conference. Somebody called me over to be with them. Figured out there were 8 of them standing there. A guy called me over. I'd only met him a few times, and they'd all gone to Harvard Business School together. He called me over and he goes, Martin, we all want to have dinner with you. We know each other from Harvard almost 25 years ago. And he said, we'd love to have dinner. So I gave them a night that I could meet with them. And he looked at his watch and he goes, I told my son I'd play tennis with him. I got to go. See you all. And he goes, Martin will give us a time to meet. Clear your schedules and be there. And as he walked away, one of the guys standing beside me, under his breath, said, what an ass. And it wasn't because he was walking away in really cool, skinny, tight jeans. That was not the issue. And I looked at the guy and he goes, "Did I say that out loud?" And I said, "You absolutely did." And I said, "Is that consensus about him?" And everybody just put their head down. I go, No, he's your friend." And I said, "I just met the guy and he was telling me what a great guy he was and all the ways he was a great guy. You've known him the longest and that's what you say about him?" And it apparently is consensus. I said, "Who's going to tell him?" And they unanimously said, "You." And I said, "I just met the guy. I don't know how to tell him this." So we actually worked a thing where I got invited to do a consultation at his business. We ended up doing a 360, not on his business performance, but on his character. Got his wife, his oldest son, business people who had known him, his Harvard friends, to all talk about his character. He was absolutely shocked because the person he thought he was and what everybody else thought he was didn't match. I have a clear point for you. When you walk away from any crowd, you know this. It's just human nature. When you're together and somebody walks away, you either think something of them, or sometimes it's even verbalized. I love when she's around. That guy's got a great spirit. He always inspires me. She's always, fill in the blank. You get a chance to inform this. So why not embrace it? Identify what the best of you is. Find your phrase. And then if you're a person of faith, you can actually partner with the Spirit of God to make that happen in your life. That's a pretty good gig for a mere mortal to get to have, that there will be this descriptor of you. So, this is probably one of those days to push pause. Take just a few moments to reflect. If you need to phone a friend and go, if I had a descriptor of my spirit, help me figure out what it could sound like. If you're one who can listen, journal, reflect, think about it and write it down. There is, in this universe, a descriptor of your spirit. The people who know you and love you most have it. If I'm right, in the heavenlies, the Holy Trinity actually has a descriptor of you. Identify it, live into it, become as effective as you can be, being that kind of person.